setting up things for like the president. And we all look at Chris looks at us and goes, we were just like, he's like, and the guy's like, all right.
All right, happy Wednesday, everyone. More than halfway through the week. I want to give a birthday shout out to our Senator Gray. Happy birthday. Okay, are there any students to speak out? All right, seeing none, we're going to move on to announcements. Does anyone have any announcements?
So the Food Matters potluck is a club that's like dedicated to food justice and lunch and other topics. They're having a potluck tomorrow at 6:30 at the OU Gardens, which is now called Food Barn, I guess. But it's like right off of West State Street.
It's by the Innovation Center.
What did you say?
It's by the Innovation Center.
Yeah, Innovation Center. It's by the Innovation Center. So yeah, there's a potluck, come hang out.
What's it called?
Food Matters.
All right, any other announcements?
Remind everyone about the sexual assault forum tomorrow from 2:30 to 8, but now it's 3 to 8. But at Partner, I'll be there for the rest of the time.
Anyone else with announcements?
Community Service Leadership Council will be hosting fall Advent Beautification this year, and we're starting to look for student leaders who want to help lead projects or volunteer. So if you're interested, please get in contact with me.
What was it for?
Athens Beautification Day, we're having a fall. It's our first pilot year for fall, and it's going to be October 21st. So we're going to be helping with the local elementary schools.
Great, thank you. Any other announcements this evening? Okay, great. So we're going to move on to our presentation today. So we have President Nellis here this evening. He's going to talk a little bit about just some of his goals for this year. So we're going to give him about 15 minutes-ish to speak, however long he has for us, and we're going to open the floor to you all for some thoughtful questions. So let's give him a hand.
Thank you all very much. I appreciate it. I'm honored to be with you tonight. And I want to thank you again for your leadership, being part of Student Senate. And you play a very important role in representing the almost 37,000 students of Ohio University. I was up in Dublin. I just came from Dublin about 10 minutes ago. But we have our campus center up in Dublin, but we have a big footprint for Ohio University. We're very proud of that footprint. So of course, certainly with our core campus here in Athens. But I wanted to again just share a few thoughts with you. I'm not going to go through all the details of my goals and objectives this year, but I wanted to share some of the broader context and then open it up to any questions you have. I also want to talk a little bit about the issues that we've been dealing with over the last few weeks related to sexual assault. As at your retreat, I mentioned there are kind of three themes that permeate through many of the primary goals that we have as an institution. I refer to these as strategic pathways, and you can go online and see in detail the specifics of those. And they permeate through some of the initiatives that we've already started at Ohio University, and we continue to implement now. And certainly, as we've developed those, there's been a lot of student input at various as we develop those. So one of those relates to again the theme of student success and engagement, and there are a lot of different dimensions of that, from diversity and inclusion, an expanded honors program, the development of a series around challenging or difficult dialogues. And there are many ways of programs to help with enhancing student success, because we want to not only recruit students here, we want to make sure that you all have the support networks you need to be successful. And so that's an important part of it. We want to increase, for example, our retention rates, which are right now between freshman and sophomore year are about 80, a little bit over 81% from freshman to sophomore. You know, I'd like to get that up to, you're not going to do it in one, we're not going to do it in 1 year, but 85 to 90% would be much better. Our 6-year graduation rate, I'd like to see that continue to improve as well. So those are some of the overarching goals, but very, very important dimensions that are associated with our campus community. And certainly creating, again, around the diversity and inclusion theme, one of inclusivity. Some of you were at the Interfaith Peace Walk last night, and it was important. I participated in that, but we had a fairly good turnout of people from the community as well as from campus, and really reinforced the importance of the sense of community and caring about each other in the community and respect for everyone in our community, no matter their orientation, their religious beliefs, their political beliefs. We want to be a place where we can welcome the perspectives from a broad range of different ideas at our university. That's what we're all about as a public institution. We want to be challenged in new ways and think anew about ideas that were presented. So anyway, that was an important step forward there. So student success and engagement, the second theme relates to continuing to enhance our national reputation and visibility. You're aware of the various national rankings that we have that we celebrate every day. I don't know if any of you are members of the Marching 110. This year, earlier, they were not within the last month, I think, Amber, they were ranked in the top 5 in the nation as far as marching bands. And I think I'm not positive of this, but I think every other school was one of the, out of one of these huge public universities, and then Ohio University. And we're so proud of our Marching 110. I would have them at number 1 in the nation because they're so special and unique. But our academic programs from the Scripps College, I meet every day. I was in California late last week and had a chance to meet with alumni. And also we have a group of students who go to Los Angeles on an intern. They basically have different types of experiences, almost like an internship type of experience. One of our faculty from the Scripps College goes with them, and they have an opportunity to experience different types of jobs and activities that are going on in that area. But in being in Los Angeles was one of the places we went, and Jay Thomas is the general manager of the Dolby Theater. I don't know how many of you know what goes on in the Dolby Theater. That's where the Oscars are held each year, and that's also like America's Got Talent. That's where they film that. But there are a lot of other major programs that go on, Grammys, or various other types of awards that are associated with the movie industry are held at that theater. And that person that leads that is an Ohio University alum. And he's been in that role for. And so our fine arts school they're just outstanding, business college, etc. So we want to continue to elevate the recognition of our students, our faculty, and our staff. And then our financial sustainability and enhancements. I want to engage our alumni more as far as giving. I want to engage corporations more in giving. And I'm preparing to create a new corporate task force to look at ways that we can develop closer partnerships for internships, but also for ways of giving more scholarship money. These are corporations that are benefiting tremendously from the quality of our graduates from Ohio University, and I'd like to see them invest more in our university. And so we're going to continue to explore that. So I wanted to come back to diversity and inclusion just a little bit and talk about Gigi Sakuban. I think you had a chance to meet her, our new Vice President for Diversity and Inclusion. She's the first Vice President for Diversity and Inclusion we've ever had at Ohio University. That position previously was a Vice Provost for Diversity and Inclusion, but it just elevates her to Vice President status. She comes to all my executive committee meetings. We meet regularly one-on-one. And this is really important as we continue to cultivate a campus environment around her interests, but also with input from the campus community. And I know one of the things that she wants to do this year is to work on a strategic plan for diversity and inclusion. And did she have a chance to talk to you at the retreat at all?
She was one of our,
Okay, so I know there'll be really important for you to have input into that process as we continue to elevate the efforts that we have around the theme of diversity and inclusion. And that includes our regional campuses as well. Sometimes we tend to forget about the students that we have throughout the state at our regional campuses, and we need to make sure that they're engaged as well in these initiatives. So that's really, really important. Also, I wanted to mention the theme around sustainability, which really permeates through our student engagement, student success theme, but also our national reputation. We continue to be ranked among the national leaders in sustainability. We have the largest in-vessel composting system of any university in the United States up on the ridges. But we've had some issues as far as our compliance, and I don't know how familiar you are with those, but where people in the compost bins at some of our halls are putting in materials that contaminates that material for composting. And so that's a concern as far as our compliance and ability to continue to rank among the leaders nationally. So we're trying to work with student leadership and with the different residence halls around this issue, but people are putting things like plastic into things that are supposed to be compost. And so that contaminates, as an example, and you're already aware of how serious plastic is in contaminating our environment on a global scale as well. So we need to be leaders, though, and I look to each of you to help me with that as we extend across campus in the context of sustainability. But at the same time, we've had some major recognitions that I wanted to mention. For example, on July 23rd, Ohio University was ranked number 23 on the U.S. EPA Green Power Partnership Top 30 Colleges and Universities in the United States. I don't know how many of you know how many colleges and universities there are in the United States, public and private. Anybody have any idea? You're just putting your sweater on. There are over 4,000 public and private, for-profit and not-for-profit universities and colleges in the United States. So to be 23rd, that's a big deal. To be in the top 30, even to be in the top 100, that's a big deal. So we're very proud of that. Also in May, I don't know how many of you were aware that this last May that we were recognized by the state Environmental Protection Agency. We were the first university in the state of Ohio to receive the Environmental Excellence Platinum Award. And again, that's for all the work that we do around sustainability. And that includes food waste, but it's also recycling and all the different parameters associated with that. In March, we earned the Tree Campus USA designation for the second year in a row, and the list goes on. We have many other recognitions in that context. So, as you're also aware, the last few weeks have been really difficult for our family, our Ohio University family, with all the issues related to sexual assault and sexual violence. And this is not necessarily unique to Ohio University, but it's happening here at Ohio University. And, you know, I think we need to band together and do everything we can collectively to try to change the dynamics, the culture that is occurring on this institution, and try to be a model, hopefully a model of how to do things right for not only other institutions in our state, but in our nation. And so I have communicated, I think, with you on a few occasions in the last couple of weeks related to this. I know Vice President Pina and also the Dean of Students, Dr. Paul Jones, has also communicated with you. Last year, I re-initiated the President's Advisory Committee on Sexual Misconduct, and there are representatives from across the university. That is co-chaired by Carrie Griffin, who's with our ECRC office, and Jenny Hall Jones. So I want you to be sure if you have ideas or if you have concerns. Certainly, I want to hear from you about those, but also if you have ideas on things that we could do better. And I'm talking about not just here on campus, but across our community, because some of these things are happening off campus as well as on campus. I know we're trying to put in place some new steps, including even video camera systems around the residence halls. So we're going to make a substantial investment. Some of them already had cameras, but we want to do more of that. But I also need you to work with us on things like providing kind of a buddy system or support system. You know, I want you to be able to have a good time and to enjoy yourselves socially, but there's also a boundary by which it becomes not a social thing and really a criminal thing. And so I need you to look out for each other. And when you see something that you don't think is appropriate, you need to report it. And we need to hear from you in that context. So I want you to do everything you can, working with me, and I'm going to do everything I can. We've had many meetings about these concerns, and we'll continue to have dialogue about those. And certainly, Maddie, I know this is an important priority for your administration, and we do want to work closely with you on that. From our university perspective, as far as our faculty and staff, the first, I have these breakfasts for progress. Maddie's invited to those. The first one I had a year ago, a little over a year ago, was on the prevention of sexual misconduct. And I had this training modules that we all participated in taking, and I was the first one to go through the training. And but we're going to continue to push that out as far as faculty, staff, administrators. And I know there's a lot of training that occurs at the student level as well with student affairs. Again, this is not something that's going to go away tomorrow, even though I'd like it to go away right now, this minute. But we need to work together to try to address this, and it won't be easy. So anyway, with that, I wanted to make sure I left time for you all to ask questions. I'm very humbled and honored to be president of Ohio University. As many of you know, I came here from Texas Tech University, where I've been previously president there. I was at Texas Tech for 4 years, but earlier in my career, I've been at WVU as a dean of arts and sciences, and my wife's from Pennsylvania. We just really love this part of the country. There's something special about Appalachia, the foothills of Appalachia, and I'm just honored to be your president. And I want to be your president. I want to hear your voices, and I want to include you in decision-making. One of the powers this last year was the way in which we approached a lot of the difficult decisions we face as an institution was through collective decision-making. And to me, leadership is not about position, like, oh, you're the president, so you're our leader. In a way I am your leader, but also every one of us has leadership responsibilities based on the different responsibilities that you have and the way you conduct yourself in that context. So you can be a leader as a student in all different ways as your colleagues look at you, whether it's participating in the student senate, but it's also the way you conduct yourself and represent your fellow students across our university. But again, I'm honored to be here tonight, and with that, Madam President.
Thank you very much, President Nellis. Yeah, so we're going to open the floor up for 10 to 15 minutes-ish, depending on how much conversation we get going. Dialogue that I will let you choose.
Okay.
We'll be chatting with. So.
Okay. Please. Yeah.
Yeah,
And if you'd introduce yourselves too, even though I know some of you, I still appreciate it.
absolutely. So I'm Woody Wilson. I'm the Commissioner for Environmental Affairs.
Excellent.
So on the topic of sustainability, last year, the Commission for Environmental Affairs, along with the Sierra Student Coalition, passed bills through Student Senate and Graduate Student Senate concerning the divestment of our endowment from fossil fuels. We received a lot of support. I believe we contacted you a bit about this as well. Is that something that's still on your radar as a priority in terms of sustainability? And if so, are there actions that you're taking toward that?
Yeah, so again, the question relates to fossil fuels and our use of them at all. And we're trying to gradually move away from them. We're part of the select group of universities. Amber Efling's over here. She's my communications director. But do you remember how many universities have signed this climate accord? It is where we agree by 2050 that we will be carbon neutral, and we're way ahead of that. We moved off coal. I don't know, was it through 2016? But we're still using natural gas. So it's our hope that we will gradually become more and more energy efficient and off of fossil fuels. I have had some discussions with some firms, and I want to follow up with AEP as well, relative to things like solar energy, and we have some real opportunities, I think, in this area. There's been some discussions about even fairly large-scale solar and opportunities around that for augmenting, even creating localized micro grids to support some of our facilities. So I'm committed personally and as president to working towards that. I'm not sure how fast, never fast enough, but it's certainly something that's very, very important. One of the first things I did last year, if you remember, was to reinforce the commitment to the Paris Climate Accord. And so all we have to look at is some of the things that are happening around the world to see the changes that are occurring in our natural ecosystem, and to realize how important that is to understand that. Thank you. Yes.
I'm Brian Jones.
Yeah.
Commissioner of the Black Affairs Commission.
Yes.
You mentioned the hiring of Dr. Human
Yes.
and diversity and inclusion, which is great. An elevation of her position. But what other efforts have been made to make OU more appealing for faculty of color? Last year, this body passed a bill suggesting that you guys increase that, like when you're looking for positions. What efforts have been made on that front?
So there was an audit about that Dr. Pina oversaw last year relative to where we were at, what were key steps forward relative to our diversification of campus. There was a report issued relative to that. But it's also fairly broad, those recommendations. And this year, Gigi, Dr. Scuban, I'm hopeful will be narrowing of that and more strategic in that. We made it though clear to the deans, I meet with the deans regularly, that there's an expectation as far as more diversity in their pools. But it's not only recruiting not only Black faculty, but more diverse faculty, student body, staff, but it's also making sure that they have the support here to be successful. And so I think there's a lot of work still to be done. I think part of it is the tone and the community. I've been very vocal about welcoming students, faculty, and staff from a broad range of spectrums, no matter the color of their skin, their religious beliefs, where they're from, etc. So I think the community, the mayor, certainly, I've talked to him a lot about it, because it's not just what happens on our campus, but it's what happens in our community as well. It's important. Part of it is developing support networks for people, making sure that when we hire faculty and staff, that they have people that they can reach out to, resource people, support people, and so we're trying to do, I think, more of that. But I'll just, being totally honest, I think we have a lot more work to do, and part of it is getting Gigi in place and not to put all the responsibility on her, but we also have invested we set aside, trying to think of the exact amount of money. It's quite a bit it's several $100,000 to invest in each of the program areas that she's responsible for, to try to increase the resource and programming around her areas of responsibility. So I think that's important as well. Again, we still have a lot of work to do. I attended the Ebony Bobcat Network, which is very strong. That's the alumni of Ohio University, Black alumni of Ohio University, and it's a fairly large group, and we have real strong chapters of the Ebony Bobcat Network in Cleveland and Columbus. We're trying to build a stronger one in DC and Cincinnati and some of the other larger urban areas as well, where we're likely to have a minimal level of alumni. But I went to the retreat they had it was about a month ago, I think, in Dublin. And so Jenny and Dr. Pina just walked in. So anyway, there was a lot of brainstorming with them about how can we make this a better place? How can we attract more students of color? How can we make sure that they're supported? And it's not only scholarship dollars, but it's also, again, programming. So we are working on those, and so I appreciate the question.
Appreciate it.
Thank you. Yes, please.
Dr. President, my name is Parker. I'm the Commissioner for Off-Campus Life.
Okay.
I was wondering, last year there was a budget crisis, right? A lot of talk about issues surrounding that.
Right.
And I was wondering if you could just give us a little bit of an update on that, and especially in terms of how, what we should expect to see going forward, like tuition hikes or changes to the funding that we ourselves receive to get this to.
Yeah, thank you for asking about that. As you know, this is an election year in Ohio, so we'll have a new governor. I've had a chance to meet with both the president, public university president, not just me alone, but the public university presidents have met with DeWine and Cordray to hear kind of their perspectives about higher education and their priorities. But certainly the state, as you know, the state legislature with the governor that determines whether we can, even if we wanted to, whether we would be allowed to raise tuition or not. One of the things that we have done in Ohio, where we were really out front, and even a lot of universities in Ohio are still not there yet. So some of your friends that might have gone to other universities may be experiencing this now, but we, the Ohio Guarantee includes fees and tuition. And a lot of universities in Ohio, public universities, they've moved to a guarantee, but a lot of them didn't fold in the fees. And so it's kind of a hidden cost until you get that bill when you start the fall semester. So I'm gonna try to do everything I can to keep the cost of tuition low, but I also need the state to work with us. We haven't had an increase really in our budget, budget was flat last year, coming in biennium for 2 years, basically, it was flat. So, yet our costs keep going up, like insurance, costs for the staff and faculty that work at the institution. We have other costs related to improvements associated with the university that we're making, infrastructure improvements. There was a study done of staff. Jason, you remember when that was, the staff equity study relative to salaries? Was that a couple of years ago?
2014.
2014. So that was a study to look at salaries of staff who were not being treated fairly relative to their salaries. And we've been trying to bring them up to a more minimal, reasonable level. So we've made annual commitments relative to that. We also want to be competitive in retaining our faculty and staff. So if we don't have raises, we went a year without raises. And as we were coming into my first year, and, we lost some faculty and staff related to that. And we had minimal raises at 1.5%. I mean, that's still something. But so every 1% of that costs multiple $1 million for faculty and staff across the spectrum. So what I'm saying is, even if everything, if we don't get additional state resources and we don't raise tuition, we're going to still have increasing costs. So that's been one of the budget challenges that Dr. Pina is part of a small group of vice presidents and I to get together every couple of weeks and talk about the budget and how we're going to deal with this. We're already starting to talk about the budget for the fall of 19, yeah. So it's fiscal year 20, yeah. So right. So, but we're already starting to talk about those obligations. So I guess in answer to your question, it's kind of hard to predict with the state legislature. We're going to try to do everything we can to get more state resources. There's a SSI calculation that's based on student credit hours and graduation rates, I think it is. Different variables that go into that. And so that formula of funding yields a certain level of revenue. The other part of this is our enrollment. And we're based on, this is preliminary, but I think our freshmen were down 65. Was that the last count as of today? From where we were a year ago. And so you might think of, well, what does that mean? There are a lot of ways that ripples through the university. So on average, if you think about, if students were paying their full in-state tuition, is that about 11 to 12,000?
About 11,000.
Yeah, 11,000. So that'd be 1.1 million if they were paying their full amount. So 65, that'd be what, 700,000 approximately, something, 750,000. But a lot of students get some scholarship money, and so that we have to fund that. Some of that's funded internally, so that also is a variable. And then also we've had the last few years we've had lower enrollment. So we had these big enrollments out for like 4 years ago, and then they've been going down like this to where we've been the last few years where it's been kind of flat. So as those ripple through us, the freshmen become sophomore students, etc. You can see that big senior class graduates. Also, there's a net there a lot, so that's another revenue dimension. So, so it's complicated. There's a lot of variables, is what I'm saying. But I did want to just reiterate again that I'm certainly committed to trying to do everything I can to keep tuition as low as possible. We are very affordable, and when you look at relative to quality, but I know it doesn't feel that way to you when you have to pay tuition. And the other part of this is Dr. Pina oversees is residence loans. So if we have fewer freshmen, there's fewer dollars permeate through the system relative to the residence halls also. So that's another dimension. But, so it is something that we continue to work on. And it'll be interesting to see. I think both candidates, at least what they're telling us, I think there's general support at this stage. There's general support for higher education. I think it's just a question of where that investment occurs. Back here.
Yes, this is kind of an infrastructure related question.
Yes.
You know, I know we're raising those buildings down south here in the next couple of years. Does the university have any, you know, student trustees came and talked to us last week.
Yeah.
And they said this was due mainly to deferred maintenance. Do you have any plan to maintain our buildings better?
Yeah, I think that.
And not just let them go to pot?
Yeah, no, I think that's a really good point. Yeah, so we were trying to, one of the things that I've tried to do coming in, and I think they're committed to, is the whole preventative maintenance versus deferred maintenance. So it's like Jennings, one of the small houses where the Dean of Fine Arts building is. I mean, that was really in bad shape, the paint. And so with the paint as bad as it was, the potential for the wood to start to rot, and et cetera, et cetera. So we're trying to be more proactive with things like that, with preventative maintenance. But some of these buildings too, like the residence halls that we're knocking down, and I'm gonna let Dr. Pina talk to you about this a little bit. But we're past that. By the time we arrived, we well past that stage. And we've also looked very carefully about our student demand. And, you know, we operate best when the residence halls are filled to like 90, 95%, or maybe 100%. But anyway, Dr. Pina, did you want to say anything in the context of the question?
Yeah, so I would say on the preventative side, right now we're trying to spend anywhere between $12 and $15 million a year on preventative maintenance in residence halls. So you'll see that in bathrooms across campus, and some of the stuff behind walls and basements and roofs. So we're spending that money. Right now we have in excess of $200 million of deferred maintenance just in the residence halls. And the residence halls that are earmarked on the back south to be demolished, each one of those average about $8 million deferred maintenance. So it costs us under $1 million to knock them down, but it would cost us at least $8 million just to do the deferred maintenance in the building. So that's the trade-off of doing that, right? And then you have halls like Washington that are closed this year, which we're renovating, and we'll have people back in there next year. So this hasn't been a tradition over the last few decades in these buildings, but now we're spending as much as we can get. You know, one of the biggest, just so people know, the biggest impediments for us being able to do more stuff in the summertime, one is time. We only have the 10 and 12 weeks when students aren't really in these buildings, and the availability of folks to do the actual construction. There's only so many folks that will bid on jobs and on so many jobs to be down in southeastern Ohio during this 3 month period. So some things that we don't control hurt us to be able to catch up, but our commitment is to try to do that. So.
Well, I better my time, or do we have time?
One more question is what we have time for tonight.
So you're gonna make me pick. Go ahead.
Nellis, I know we've talked before, but thank you so much for coming in today.
Absolutely.
All really appreciate it. This kind of goes off Parker's question, but as a double major in civil engineering and environmental studies in HEC, our dean, we didn't have a dean for now, I think about 3 years now. Our dean for us college is about to leave next August or June rather. Is there a plan? I know we talked about raises and this big turnover in the dean area. Is there a plan to go forward? Of course, now we have provosts, everybody's on new faces. Is there a plan about how to move forward and have like kind of people stay? And
So thank you for asking that. So we have 5 or 6 deans that will be retiring in the next less than a year. And so this is not unusual given where they're at in their careers. Dean Irwin at the Russ College of Engineering has been dean for 17 years, something like that. That's a long time as a dean. I mean, just nationally, I think the average is like 6 years on average for a dean. I was was dean for 7 years at WVU, but he's just ready, you know, it's not like I'm getting out of here, he's gonna stay around actually and continue to contribute. But he's just ready for somebody new to come in and offer that perspective. The Honors College, the Honors Tutorial College, you know, we've had Harry Frith being interim, serving as interim. I think he's done great, in my opinion. But we wanted to get the new provost in place. Jeremy Webster took the job as dean at, he wanted to be a dean of more of a college kind of campus setting, and that's where the opportunity came in Zanesville, University of Ohio University Zanesville, and so he went there. So we put Carrie in an interim role, and then we had all the transitions of provost, interim provost. We really wanted to, since that person, all the deans report, you know, in the structure, they report through the provost. I certainly have a role and input into hiring and interacting with the deans, but their evaluations are done by the provost. So, and that's who they regularly meet and interact with. So, but we started the search for the dean of library. Scott Stevens retiring after, I think it's been 11 years. The dean will be 11 years. That's a long time again, but he's just wanting to retire. His wife lives in Kentucky or Tennessee, and he just wants to be where he doesn't have to commute back and forth all the time. Arts and Sciences, Dean Frank stepped down last year. We have the interim dean. We're going to do a national search this year for that position. Say again.
Bill Willen.
Oh, Bill Willen, yes. He's the executive dean. Dr. Bill Willen is the executive dean for the regional campuses. So the regional deans report through him, and he's retiring. He's been at Ohio University for a long time, executive dean. I don't think all that long, maybe 5 or 6 years, but before that, he was dean of the Southern campus, Ohio University Southern. So I think, again, he's ready to retire. He's just been administrator for a long time. So it's not like people are just jumping out. They really, no, I really believe that this is part of Dr. McDavis was here for 13 years as president, and I think this is kind of part of the natural transition. We have, again, new provost, new president, vice president, GBC Kubin. We also have a new vice president for advancement, Nico Garagosian, who's the head of advancement, the institutional advancement where we raise money for the university. So anyway, so there's a lot of transitions in presidential so that's just part of it, but we have a plan. We have to move forward. I just want to get the provost in place, so that's a long answer to your question. I apologize. So that's maybe more detail than you ever want to hear. Anyway, thank you all very much for the opportunity to be with you tonight. Thank you.
Sharing your evening with us after your visit to Dublin. And just as a reminder, I meet regularly with President Ellis as well. So if there are particular, actually tomorrow I think is our meeting. So if there are any particular concerns that you have and the answers that you think of later on, I'd be happy to bring them.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, I want to be very accessible, and so you should feel free to reach out. Certainly working through Maddie is great, but if you see me on campus and have a question for me, feel free at any time to reach out to me. So I appreciate that. Thank you again.
Thank you again, President Ellis. All right, so we're going to roll call. President Sloat, present. Vice President, present. Treasurer Randall, present. Commissioner Williams. Senator Bishop. Senator Kerman. Senator Newhart.
Present.
Senator Atfield. Senator Shaver. Senator Moore. Present. Senator Kraus.
Present.
Commissioner Jones.
Present.
Senator Gibson. Present. Senator Allouie. Senator Martin. Present. Commissioner Wilson. Commissioner Schlosser.
Present.
Commissioner Epiney. Commissioner Neff. Present. Senator Sweeney.
Present.
Commissioner Zimmerman.
Present.
Senator Rayner. Present. Commissioner Smith.
Present.
Senator Chaplin. Present. Senator Jones. Senator Levon. Present. Senator Adams.
Proxy.
Senator Yurtsik. Commissioner Arnold.
Present.
Commissioner Gravis.
Present.
Senator Carmen.
Present.
Senator Soto Diaz. Senator Conrad Sweeney. Commissioner Holtcamp. Senator Baker. Senator Levine.
Present.
Senator Strongway. Senator Rideout. Senator Suzanne.
Proxy.
Senator Deering.
Present.
Commissioner Thomas. Senator Kramer. Commissioner Ayers. Senator Williams. Clerk of Court Malcolm. Okay, great. Thank you. Yes, okay, so we're gonna move on to additions to the agenda. Are there any additions?
I move to add resolution 1819-19, a resolution of fund. Ready?
Second.
Okay. Resolution to 1819-20, a resolution to appoint a Senators Women's Affairs Commission, and Senate Resolution 1819-21, a resolution to appoint a Senate the LGBTQA Affairs Commission.
Okay, all those in favor of adding resolution 1819-19, 1819-20, and 1819-21 to the agenda, please raise your hand. All those opposed? Abstentions? Noted one abstention, so added. Okay. All those in favor of approving the previous meeting minutes, please raise your hand. All those opposed? Abstentions? Okay, we are going to move on to old business. So if you remember, we had one resolution tabled from last week, so we're going to discuss that. So resolution 1819-12, a resolution to fund candy for the involvement there, whereas. Second. Okay, primary sponsor, Commissioner Slaughter.
All right, I talked about this last week. Total's now fixed, and the unit price is fixed for a Walmart Child's Play bag of candy. $7.73. I yield my time to Director Rob to talk a little bit about this.
Okay, so as I mentioned last week, we got candy for the involvement fair. Very impressed up, having engaged the first year in our house's involvement fair. All the leftover candy will be used at future cable events, which is very important because we want to engage and get everyone so excited about Student Senate. So I really urge you all to pass this budget. It's awesome.
Great. Secondary sponsor, Senator Burke.
Now everything looks good. This is Johnson.
Excellent. Is there any discussion on this resolution? Seeing none. Okay. It has been moved and seconded to vote on resolution 1819-12. All those in favor, please raise your hand. All those opposed, abstentions. Okay, we are going to move on to new business today. So first up, we have Senate Resolution 1819-16, a resolution to appoint a senator to the International Affairs Commission. Whereas, okay, primary sponsor, Commissioner Epiney. You are also the secondary sponsor. Do you have anything to add to that as well? Okay, wonderful. Is there any discussion on this resolution? Just as a note, this is persistent. Just one bill.
So soon to be the best round one.
All right, right here.
I move to remove Anna Ayers.
I heard before, is there a second?
Oh, there's a second.
It's been moved and seconded to vote on resolution 18-19-16. All those in favor, please raise your hand. All those opposed, abstentions. All right, resolution passes. Congratulations. Moving on to resolution 18-19-17. Oh, wow.
Don't laugh, Jesus.
A resolution to amend the rules and procedures to create a vice commissioner position for the Regional Campus Affairs Commission. Okay. Whereas, primary sponsor, Commissioner Arnold.
All right, as you know, this is a very new commission, and I'm really trying to get the ball rolling on connecting the branches with main campus. And I really think building up the commission, having a team in a sense to help do that, it's a pretty big job, but I'm excited to do it, and already got a good man lined up for the position, named Josh. He's actually came tonight, he's right here. He came from Lancaster as well, same as me, but he's great with people, and I think he'll do a great job. I know he's a hard worker, so.
Thank you so much, Commissioner Arnold. Secondary sponsor, Vice President Burke.
Yeah, so as you see in the resolution, in the rules and procedures, when it talks about commissioners or commissions, it says that each commission should have a vice commissioner, but then when you go and look at all of the subsequent commissions and talks about how the makeup of it is, it says that there's a vice commissioner, and it doesn't have that for the Regional Affairs Commission. So we want to add that in so that Commissioner Arnold can get a vice commissioner, so he can have a team, so they really can get the whole world in on the things that they want to work on. So I reserve that.
Great, thank you, Vice President Burke. Is there any discussion on this resolution?
This vice commissioner is going to be somebody who is recently transferred to Ohio University or somebody who's stationed at a French campus.
I wouldn't see why it couldn't be somebody from Brandon campus in the future, personally. Honestly, we could definitely work that out, but right now, I think it would work best if I was directly with. But in the future, that could definitely be a good time.
What I was thinking was it would be someone on Athens campus. It doesn't say either way, so it really could be anyone who's a high university student. But it'll really make sense for having that commissioner to have someone on the Athens campus that they can have regular commission meetings with, hold each other accountable, all your face to face. Also, that there's someone who knows what's going on and can be a proxy for the commissioner if need be. So that's my idea, but it could be.
Any further discussion on this resolution? Okay, so moved and seconded to vote on Senate Resolution 18-19-17. All those in favor, please raise your hand. All those opposed, abstentions. Great, resolution passes. We're now going to move on to Senate Resolution 18-19-18, a resolution to increase efficiency of the Committee on the Budget, whereas. Okay, primary sponsor, Treasurer Lydia Daphne Romlo.
Such an amazing name.
Wait,
That's how I feel.
Emphasize that.
That's how I feel.
Sorry.
It's okay. So Anna and Zach Woods, who was treasurer last year, really worked hard on creating the budget committee commissions. So we really want to continue that on. And so with that, we really want to limit the number of senators. It's really this looking and making sure all the budgets are good and ready to go. There's really not any input. And also, there's always been a problem every single year about people who have not been on the committee prior. So we can never have a share. So it's kind of limiting that role and it's a preference to someone who is served on the committee before. So I really urge everyone to pass this just to keep moving forward. This is one of our big platform points that is internal, is to be more efficient this year. I reserve the balance of my time.
Okay, secondary sponsor, Commissioner.
So this was completely overhauled last year. It was operating with an unnecessary number of people, which just made it awful. For anyone here, I think John's the only other one that was involved with this. It was painfully horrible. Just to give you an idea, budget has no voting power. They really just review, check the numbers sometimes, notify the applicant of mistakes and format resolutions. It's a job that can be done by two people. If they spend an hour a week each, there's no reason for it to be more than 2 or 3 people. Based on the amount of work that former treasurer Woods and I did, it would be quite disappointing to see our efforts go to waste, so please pass this.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Ayers. Is there any discussion on this resolution?
Vote.
Second. Okay, it has been moved and seconded to vote on resolution 18-19-18. All those in favor, please raise your hand. All those opposed, abstentions. All right, resolution passes. Okay, we're going to move on for addition to the agenda, Senate Resolution 18-19. I'm getting really confused with these numbers. A resolution to fund elect her, whereas. I know. You're just waiting for me. Okay, primary sponsor, Commissioner Schlosser.
So this is to fund a program called Elect Her. The core component of this program is to get women involved either in government or student government. It is comprised of Women's Center giving some money towards it and the Political Science Department giving some money towards it. We're not the only ones funding this program, so we're adding money to a larger pot. Commissioner Thomas will talk a little bit about it. So I'm going to yield my time to Commissioner Thomas. Oh, I have to say that, yes, sorry. Upon reviewing the budget application, the committee reports that it's met all the criteria outlined for approval. I yield my time.
Honestly, my commissioner and his neighbor, most of them were speaking or talking on behalf of this with them, the other people who were putting in money. So I trust her fully, completely with this, and that was kind of the number we settled on. We got the appropriate reason for student senate too.
Secondary sponsor, Senator.
Everything looked good. All the is
Is there any discussion on this resolution? Yes, Treasurer Ramos.
So I worked with Hannah Graber to create this budget. It's a great event. All 3 of us actually attended this event last year. It was very engaging, very helpful. It's such a great atmosphere and environment. I encourage all of those who define as women in this body to attend this event this year. The Women's Center has contributed about $500, poli-sci is about $100, so we want to contribute to this awesome event and give them the rest of the money. So.
Just so that we explain what the event is, it's essentially a training program for women or honestly anyone. I think it's open to anyone not affiliated with gender to actually run for elected office or just learn skills to run for elected office. And as they said, we all attended it last year, and I will actually be speaking at it this year. So I really encourage for you all to be friends. Okay. Oh yes.
I attended Elect Her last year, and now I have no interest in doing student senate, and now I am. So vouch that it works. It does. It's very progressive.
Thank you so much.
I'm going to second that. It's the same thing for me. I have no interest in the program, and I'm like, this is something.
Is there any other discussion on the resolution? Okay, it's moved and seconded to vote on Senate Resolution 18-19-19. All those in favor, please raise your hand. All those opposed? Abstentions? 1 abstention voted. Resolution passes. Okay, now we are going to move on to the second addition to the agenda, Senate Resolution 18-19-20, a resolution to appoint a senator to the Women's Affairs Commission, whereas stated in the Senate, Student Senate rules. You don't want me to do it. Primary sponsor, Commissioner Thomas.
She was on a commission last year, we were both senators, and she's a really good worker, she has a lot of really awesome ideas. I met with her yesterday to get her back into some ideas. She has a lot of, especially with, she wants to like work on a bus stop close to the planning area, I think that's really awesome. So you know more about her, but she'll be here next week.
Our secretary sponsor is Vice President.
Yeah, Commissioner Thomas told me that she had a great interview with Robin, and as the former Women's Affairs Commissioner, Robin was one of the senators last year with Clancy, with Commissioner Thomas, sorry. And I do know that she is a very hard worker, someone who's really passionate about the issues and constituents. She's going to be a great addition to the Student Senate and the Senate Council.
Is there any discussion on this resolution? It has been moved and seconded to vote on Senate Resolution 181920. All those in favor, please raise your hand. All those opposed? Abstentions? 2 abstentions?
One no.
One, a vote no?
No.
Okay. Resolution passes. Okay, our last resolution for the night, Senate Resolution 181921, a resolution to appoint a senator to the LGBTQA Affairs Commission. Whereas, okay, primary sponsor, Commissioner Knapp.
Hi, so this is about appointing Destiny to the position of senator. This year, we're working really hard to repair our relationship with the LGBT Center, and she works there. So she's a great liaison for us, and she looks like a really hard worker, and I think she's going to work out really well in the Senate. I yield my time to President first.
Great, Chair, Secretary Sponsor, sorry.
Yeah, so Commissioner Knapp had a great interview with Destiny, and as she said, we're really working to have a better relationship with the center, and she's going to be a great person to bridge that gap. So I was at that.
Great, is there any discussion on this resolution? All right, all those in favor of passing Senate Resolution 181921, please raise your hand. All those opposed? Abstentions? Another 1 abstention. Resolution passes. All right, so we are now going to move on to commission reports.
So like I said to all the commissioners in Slack, I did this yesterday, we're gonna do the first half of the alphabet of the commissions this week, and then next week we'll do the last half. But if you have something that's really important that you want to still say, you can. But we're gonna start with that. So you know who you are. That's one. Okay. So we're gonna let you guys do this. Right on John.
Cookies and Constitutions is Monday. We're gonna be giving out constitutions, we're gonna be giving out cookies, we're gonna be registering voters. Thank you to Student Affairs for getting 500 constitutions. Really excited. So that's gonna be going on from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. top of Baker. We're gonna have a little table session. I also want to say a little comment about some of the sorority banners being asked where's their sign permit. Just to remind everybody that even if the city of Athens agrees with some of the language being put up, they have to still ask for permits. That's what the sign code's written. I've already started exploring 10 pages of banner codes that the city has. It's all written in 1989, so it's all very outdated. So I started looking into that. I know Parker, myself, some members of my commission are going to be going to City Council on Monday. So if you have any input, please come up to me.
Any other commissioners?
So we are working really hard on getting together events for Mental Health Awareness Week in October, as well as LGBT History Month, also all of October, and National Coming Out Day, also in October. We're also working on a bill right now, and if anyone has not contacted me about that, go ahead and come after and see me this weekend. After this meeting, we're meeting tomorrow at 2 to talk about it, and I can tell you more about that. Thank you.
Yes, we had our first meeting, and then tomorrow we're gonna have another meeting under the environmental resolution. We're starting off with everything we ever left off last year with divestment and recycling and composting, as Commissioner Bill said, and that and everything. We are interested, I think, this year, especially in partnering with other commissions, because we know that sustainability should be. So, fantastic team of commissioners. No specific plans right now, but we're looking forward to.
Thank you so much. Commissioner Jones, you have a report today? No updates? Okay. I wanted to also ask, I know we have 2 proxies for 2 commissioners, Commissioner Mooney and Commissioner Weeks. I don't know if either of them gave you reports. Okay.
I'm going for 10. I am Commissioner Newsom. Academic Affairs is still looking for senators for various commissions, including College of Business, Scripps College of Communication, ULA, and Graduate College. We've been met with Dr. Paul Jones about the free printing initiative and are in the process of setting up a meeting with OIT.
Thank you so much. Commissioner Weeks. Any other commissioners just want to give any updates on any events?
Sure. Off-campus commission had another meeting today. We met with grading course to address some issues related to towing contractor that works with the university. That's what we're going to be working with in terms of the city has a limit on how much people can be charged for towing, and apparently they've been charging more than that. So we're going to look into that. We're also getting started in just kind of doing a survey of like the landscape of who's involved in student life off campus, trying to build something just that the future commissions don't need to like go through all this labor to find context on the different landlords, rental agencies, and just like organizations of NOU resources that we can use to help leverage some of our plans and whatnot. We also had a really productive meeting with Alicia and City Planner Paul today. It was exciting. He was really very genuine and serious about getting student input on Athens' sort of like comprehensive city plan for like next 20 years or something, which is happening this year. So we will all have a great opportunity to get some input on that. I'll have more information on that in the future. We'll be doing some like tabling and stuff like outside of the city planner also. So hopefully we can get some more university city student connections stuff going on, and we'll be having a later meeting where we will give like a lecture and I'll give them feedback. More on
Great, thank you, Commissioner Smith. All right, I think we are going to move on to, also, I don't know if you just want to give a Senate committee update,
So I sent out, I know some of you guys applied for university standing committees, but we also had to pick people who we thought were best for the committees. So I sent those names in this week, and if you were selected, you should have gotten an email from the president's office this week. I was CC'd on at least one of those emails. So, and if someone turns down if they decline their invitation, then the backup will be asked. So you may also be a backup. So if you did get an invitation, please accept that invitation as soon as possible so that the chairperson of your committee can send you the information for their upcoming meetings. And if you decline that, please also do that as soon as possible so they can email the backup.
Do you have any questions either about what these committees do or how it works? They're usually a pretty low time commitment. I would say like once or twice a month for an hour is usually the amount of time that you get to be the student representative and the student voice in a lot of them, which is a really cool opportunity. So if you have any questions about that, please reach out to us so we'd be happy to answer them. Okay. You also, so we're we're going to move on to our executive officer reports. Oh man. Okay, so I just have a couple quick updates today. I just first wanted to say thank you all so much for those of you that helped to work on the safety app this weekend. We got a lot of work done just in a very short amount of time. We really cranked it out in donkey coffee, and thank you to those of you that contributed from afar as well. Just so you are up to date on what's happening at our open forum tomorrow from 3 to 8 in Front Room, which I'm going to continue to say over and over again. I hope that you encourage all of your friends, everyone you know, strangers on the street, everyone that you see to come to the open forum tomorrow. It's a large amount of time, so people can go and grab a coffee, come and chat with us. But also we chose 3 apps, safety apps that we really like the models of, and we're going to have a little survey that students can take. They can look at the information that about each app and the stuff that kind of goes along with all the features of them.
What are the 3 apps?
Rave, Guardian, Lifeline, and LiveSafe are the 3, and all of that information is on the Excel document and the Google sheet that we had shared with everyone. So let us know if you want to look into more information about that, but we will also be sharing that survey as well. We'll probably put it in Slack tomorrow, just so that if you have friends who aren't able to make it to the forum but really want to give input on the safety app, we want to do that. So hopefully we will have some really exciting updates in the next few weeks here about some progress on that. The university has been super great about putting a committee together for us all to work on that. So we're really looking forward to making some tangible change on that front.
Who's on that committee from Student Senate?
Yes, Vice President Burke and Commissioner Zimmerman are both on survey.
I did get it. I just thought everyone else probably didn't get it.
So, anyways, you can go to them if you have particular insights that you would like to share. Thank you, Dr. Pina, for pointing that out. Okay, so moving on there. I am also serving on the Student Health Insurance Advisory Committee this year. So if you have any particular comments or questions about health insurance and policy making, I will be helping to formulate those. So feel free to just come to my office hours or set up a time to meet with me if you have particular interest in that field or questions. I know that was something we discussed really heavily last year, and so we're continuing this conversation. We have a really interesting, cool, diverse mix of people on that committee. So we're looking forward to making some progress there. And then my last one is just about homecoming court. For those of you who are seniors, the applications are out to nominate someone or to apply yourself. I think they are due Friday, September 21st at 5 p.m. Am I correct? Yes. Okay. So if you want to nominate someone, if you want to apply for homecoming court, be involved in the Bobcat spirit for homecoming, you should definitely do that. And I think that's everything. So that is the end of my report.
So last week, Maddie and Lydia and I met with the CLDC. We talked about some ways that we can share goals and help accomplish each other's goals. But I just wanted to give an FYI, if people don't know this, that they have a career closet on the 5th floor. And so if anyone is struggling to get clothes that are business professional, you can just stop by there. It's on the 5th floor of Baker. And see if there's any clothes that you can take. I happen to remember last year, during the nose, I did a pretty pantsuit, but I was too short for it. You knew it was mine. You told me. Oh. You told me. Probably been getting email. Next point, rate that a little bit here. So a lot of people in the room are senators. And if you have something that you really want to do, an initiative, you should first bring that to your commissioner. Definitely be in contact with commissioners about a lot of things, anything really that you're doing, if you have a new idea. And then if you want to, you can bring it to the execs. I would love to hear your new ideas, but it's really important to keep in constant communication with your commissioner. If you send an email to an administrator, you should probably CC your your commissioner. Each person might have a different policy, but I would just ask them about what they want there. Also, just as an example, like Madeline is the new light senator. So her commissioner is Eva. But if she had a really good idea, she shouldn't come straight to me or send an email to some administrator without checking up with Eva or her commissioner to make those connections. It's just important so that they keep me in the loop so that I know what everyone's doing. So that's important. And then the last thing I just wanted to say, I know we talked about it a lot, but thanks to everyone for all their help this weekend with the safety app. Either if you were at Donkey or if you were working remotely, it was helpful. And thanks to Dr. Pina for the suggestion. He was basically told us that you need to do this weekend, get everyone together, and so we did, and it worked. And I'm really, really excited to bring tangible change to the university, and I think that it's going to be really great. And that's the end of my report.
Thank you. All right, Treasurer Brown, let's go.
Yes. So I don't want to put money on this, but we need staff people. Because you want to hang out with Anna and I on Sunday, every other Sunday, you did it too. Anna brought muffins last time, so you may get a free snack. So like, why not join Zach?
I was made.
Yes, they were very good.
That's how desperate I am to get Zach.
Scones might be on the agenda next Sunday.
It's gonna be a surprise. I'm not
Yeah, so please, if you have friends who are interested, you yourselves can also apply. We're a great team. We want to help student orgs achieve their dreams and their goals, which is very passionate. Please apply. But in all seriousness, it's a really important committee. Commission, sorry, it's been a long day. So moving on, again, lots of people have talked to me about events that they are planning. Thank you for those who have come to me. If you are thinking about making events and need things for it, or buying things, please talk to me, especially if it's, like I said last week, serviceware. We really want to give these compostable serviceware items to culinary, so sooner the better. So start making cool events. Thirdly, I think John got in his report, but the alumni event, which is the 22nd of September, which is a Saturday in a couple weeks in Cincinnati. It's just John and I hanging out with some alumni. You'll really appreciate if more people come. Hopefully, we were thinking about passing a budget to maybe decrease the cost, so we have more people who want to come and hang out with us. That's it. Okay, Senate total $25,477.81. Allocated, not spent, $13,488.98. Not allocated nor spent, $11,977.83. SAC total, $224,628.71. Spot, $144,620.71. And you fund $80,000. These numbers are true and accurate to the best of my knowledge.
At some point, fix the SAC total. And that doesn't matter now. I think it's in the minutes.
Okay. I do. So just a reminder to everyone to fill out the OrgSync form so that I can do your name tags. I had carved out a set of time on Friday starting at 4 o'clock to get these name tags done. So if everyone can submit that form by Friday at 4 o'clock, you will have a name tag. If you don't, then you won't have a customized name tag. Yeah, and I'll put the link in the Slack again, so it's really easy for you. I also wanted to explain office hour locations, because I have a couple questions to speak about it. So half of your office hours must be done in the Senate office. Aside from those hours, you have to be doing them with your constituents. So you can't just be like hanging at Brook Street Coffee just because and say that was an office hour. You kind of have to actually be talking to people. So if you have any other questions other than that about office hours or anything or submission, that would be.
Sure. So if I'm a Black Affairs senator, I would serve 4 office hours. So I would serve 2 of my office hours in the Senate office, and then for my other 2 office hours, I could go serve them in the MCC. Example. But if you have any questions about anything related to office hours or anything, or for example, if you think it's just so hard to navigate, talk to me about it. I wanted to give a shout out to Clara, our research director up there, who made our really awesome survey, which everyone will see when they look for the app. Yeah, she's really awesome, and we really give her a crunch, but she really knocked out the app. So it's really good. And I just wanted to also say, if any of your commissions want to do a survey for any of the projects that you're working on, just let me know, and then I can get you in contact with Clara, and you guys can work out a corporate survey or just research in general. So there's that, and then I'm also gonna yield my time tonight.
Last year I did a small interview project where I basically interviewed seniors or people who, practically seniors, regardless of how long you served in the Senate. I'm kind of restructuring how I did that. Instead of doing an interview about the entire year, I want to do 2 interviews for each semester. So this way there's less time that both myself and participants have to do, as well as it is better for their memory to remember what happened over a semester as opposed to an entire year. I'm going to put out a reminder in the Slack channel. If you could please get back to me through Slack, and I can also give you my number. I want to see who's interested. So this way we can start the ball rolling. And this way you can give you time to think about things that you do throughout the semester to talk about. It's completely optional though. It's pretty much your legacy for when you leave Senate and the university. So it is recommended. For me personally, that's completely optional. May I have something else?
Does the clerk report have a report?
I do, actually, and I'm here for it this week because I remembered to do my job. So, the panel is now meeting on Mondays for right now. God only knows that will change. Thank you for sending us your resolutions. We are happy to review anything. However, we don't need them unless they're changing the rules and procedures. So, like I said, if you send them, we'll review them. We'll be more than happy to do that. But if you're appointing someone, we don't need your resolutions unless you just want us to look at them. That being said, I think that's everything. Okay, so I reserve the comment. Or that's the end of our report.
Thank you very much. All right, Dr. King.
3 items. One, on the issue of banners and the general policies and procedures and what have you. Jenny and I are actually meeting with the mayor and representatives of the court office tomorrow, so we'll mention that. So they've asked to meet with us, so I'm sure they have an agenda of what they want to discuss, but in the coming weeks, we'll probably be able to give you an update on sort of what they're thinking and how we can enhance our local university on an annual basis and what banners. The other thing I would say is that research tells us when we went to school a long time ago, and it actually hasn't changed in decades since we went to graduate school, that the first 6 weeks of a new student's time on our campus is the most important time. If you think back to when you first came to campus, who you engaged with, what you got involved in, shaped a lot of the experiences of those of you in this room. As folks who have experience at the university and been here for a while, I just want to put out there and remind you what you already know. We're 3 weeks in, so we're halfway through that period of time. So those new students who you might have met the last 3 weeks, is a great time to check in with them to see if they're engaging in a club or some kind of activity. And those that have not reached out to first-year students, is a great opportunity for you to remind them of maybe organizations and opportunities that you represent, to get them engaged before the 6-week period of time is over. So I just want to put that out there. And the third one is a lot of folks over the last 2 weeks have been great, especially through Twitter, those faces I know, and people who follow me and vice versa are retweeting and putting out there resources for folks who may be victims and survivors, as well as options they have to get support. So I would say keep doing that throughout the year, regardless of what is put out there as a crime alert, because we have survivors who come to school here as survivors, and folks who unfortunately have been victimized or will be victimized, whether it is in a paper or whether it's something that you hear about. So when you're out there talking about resources, it's not just when it happens to be the issue of the day. It needs to be consistent throughout the year, and that's one way that we can show survivors we care about them. It's not just when it's something that's in our face, it's something we truly do care about every semester, every month, year round. So I would really encourage you to push that out there and let folks know that you know those resources. If you don't, Jay or myself or anyone up in this area can certainly tell you. And if we're not doing a good enough job, in your opinion, of marketing and letting folks know what's available, let us know. Because we want to make sure everyone knows whether they take advantage of it or not, what we have to offer to support folks and what their rights are in terms of reporting and getting support.
All right, Dr. Jones.
Scott's not here. Maybe I'll bring him sometime. I had two things. I think sometimes people know this, but a lot of times we do this behind the scenes. So Hurricane Florence is going to really impact, especially the Carolinas and Virginia. And so in the office today, we reached out to all of our Wildcats from those states. We have about 350 students who live in those three states. And about 100 or so are campus students, so they're probably potentially currently living there. And the other couple hundred are here trying to figure out what they're doing for families. So just want to let you know that we do have people are directly affected by what's happening there, and probably a lot more indirectly affected. And we have reached out to just offer support, and if people need any kind of one-on-one help, we will do that with them. So please keep that the entire Eastern Seaboard in mind. And then the other thing I want to say, I almost interrupted during the lecture moment, but I thought I would save it. This is why I have a board, right? So probably 6 or 7 years ago, I lose track of time because I've been here so long.
Yes.
But it wasn't, I remember sitting over there, and I remember that it was only men right here in the circle, and I remember that only men talked in Senate. And I was trying really hard to get women to speak up during student Senate meetings. And this was not that long ago. It was actually the birth of the Marketplace Scholars. It was one of the reasons why we created the Marketplace Scholars, because we felt like women's leadership voices were not being heard. And so I just want to say it's pretty awesome. And I love this setting. And we still have to find out if you are the first ever all-female.
As far as my knowledge is aware, structure.
Yeah,
Yes.
they are, right?
They are.
Because I was thinking we had one before, but it wasn't the actual elected slate. And that's pretty cool. So I just want to say thank you for doing that lecture and keep it going. And we love male voices too. We just like them when they're equal. Good job. And I'm done. Unless you want me to say something. Okay.
All right.
Hi everyone. All right. So I was asking a question. I just want to say how proud I am of all of you in regards to just hitting the ground running. I feel like at the moment, Senate is at a really good place to continue to make impactful change on campus and to not only impact the students that you all represent, but also the entire community of Athens. So continue to try to reach for the stars, push the limits, and challenge the process because there are systems in place. Ask why. Get to that. Don't settle because you all have voices that need to be used and need to be heard. So continue to do that. And part B as to why I'm extremely proud of you all is last week I made the announcement that I was going to be checking grades for everybody. And of about 104, 105-ish members altogether, including the judicial panel. Student Senate sits at a 3.4 cumulative GPA, which is amazing because if you look at other student organizations on campus, that's not a big point that anyone advocates. Is their academic achievement within their membership. So please continue to strive academically and live out your values of why you come to this campus to get an education and better the world around us. But just a little tidbit of information to be proud of for yourselves and as well. Other than that, go Bobcats.
Cool. That's such an empowering.
Yeah, damn.
Okay, is there a motion on the floor? All right, it's been motion and seconded, to adjourn this meeting. All those in favor, please raise your hand. All those opposed? Abstentions? We are adjourned. Oh, it's so